welcome back. It's good to be back. Remember, like, comment, subscribe. I have food on the way, so we'll be having to take a break just real quick to grab it because it's cold outside, and I don't want it to get cold.
What did you
for
order?
Chipotle.
Mm.
It's been a busy week, so I got home a little early today, and I'm good to go. I do want to have an internal conversation, but live on camera,
Okay.
if that's okay with you, because I have to question right now if you're completely checked out
On what?
on this, like on doing scary hours.
No. I just got home later than normal from work
No, no,
today.
no. I'm asking like in general. So you're not checked out.
No, why would I be?
All right. Well, I'm just because over the last few weeks, this is just my observation of what's been going on, and if that's okay with you, can I share it with you? And
Go ahead.
I'm really not trying to come on like any like dickhead shit. I'm just like I'm truly asking. The first thing I would like to ask is like, do you have any like ideas that you feel like I'm like hindering you on, like on like a week to week basis for you to like really like fully flesh them out? Because if so, I want you to like speak up and like insert those ideas on like a week to week basis, like in any capacity. Like it could be anything, whether that be like clothing, what happened in a game, like anything. Like, do you think that I'm like holding you back from being able to do that?
No. No, if I
Okay.
had something to throw in there, I wouldn't hesitate to do it.
So you just don't do it then.
I haven't had any. I feel like what you've been covering is like all the stuff that is like generally worth talking about, like more in depth.
Okay. Because I was like, I'm thinking like if I'm like watching something throughout the course of the week, or like watching something go on, like if I'm like thinking of what to talk about, like I'm thinking like strictly in video terms, and like that's where I was just like, I would like to challenge you then at that point, like if you don't have anything, or like I want you to also feel as if you can take over as well. Like I don't want you to think that like it's just like my way or the highway, and like holding you back from like doing anything that like you like want to say or do, or you like text me and be like, hey, I have a video idea, like this is like the title that I'm thinking for it, and like we can figure it out like that. I want you to know that like I one, if you feel like I'm hindering you of doing that, I'm sorry, and I want you to lock in and do that. And if you haven't felt like you've had like that creative like churn like in your head like going, I'd like to challenge you to like be able to do so.
No, I would say if anything, it's just it is the I would say that it's more so just like a little bit of lack of creativity on my end. I'm not checked out. Like I love doing this. It's just a
Yeah.
matter of like trying to like I don't know the right way to say it. Like when I'm at work, like I'm thinking of work and I try to focus on that. So like when I'm outside of work is when I try to turn it off and think of things along this, and I just haven't had anything.
Yeah.
It's not like it's
There
not like
is
I'm purposely not saying anything. It's I just haven't had like the creativity piece like I would say that I normally do.
all right. Well, there's 12 other hours in the day. So I would like to
There is,
challenge
and
you to
I
use
would
this
say
as
that
well.
eight are spent, seven are spent sleeping.
Okay, well, I'm just saying like you do
I
have
understand. I get your point. I
saying
get your point. And
saying
I
that
know
you
it's not an
only have
excuse. It's not
time
an
to work
excuse.
is a bad excuse. Um
I know it's not.
But it's fine. Like I understand. Like listen, I understand that completely. I was just saying like if you do have any like if you don't want to do it, you can not
No.
do it as well. That's also like I just wanted to let you know like that's how I've like come to this like as of recently, where it's like no, it doesn't really seem like he really wants to do it. So I did want to like address that and make sure like it to be known that like one, like, am I holding you back at all with anything along those lines? And two,
No.
how can we get you to like figure that out? Also, the other thing, I know that you're not going to be sitting here like on like Photoshop and like trying to figure out like a way to like concoct like a thumbnail or anything like that, but like if you do have any ideas of like what something should look like, sound like, anything like that, like I also like want your like opinion like and like input on like all of that as well.
Okay. It's not like I've been holding that back, but I'll just start putting more thought
You've
into
never
it.
you've never done that, and I know that, like, you have something in your brain to be able to, like, make that tick. So I think that, like I do think that, like, you like, the one day you were like, "What should I do for Penn State?" Like, blah, 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 whatever, and I said, "You should do, like, a commentary video," like, and you were like, "I don't even know what that means." Like, that's just, like, taking the time and, like, coming out with, like, a fully fleshed out topic and not just, like, if you were to you did it a little bit with, like, let's just say, like, "Oh, I'm going back in time with, like, these games, and, like, I'm
Yeah.
reviewing essentially like that." Like that's a good idea. And like that's like a fully fleshed out like idea that like you had from like start to finish. Like let's get you to like create more of those like moving forward. Like if that's
That's
cool.
fair. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I want you to know that like I'm not checked out. I love doing this. My creativity just hasn't been there, and I appreciate you being like saying this to me. I don't take offense to it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not. I really wasn't trying to come on like any like dickhead, like because I know
I
that
know
I
that.
can be. I know I can be
We have
super
known
aggressive.
each other long enough to the point where I that it is constructive criticism, and it has never once come across as like you trying to be an asshole.
Yeah, and I say that also because I think the views are reflecting that as well. Where like we need to come up with better
I
ideas.
I agree.
Whether that be like you and like at the beginning of the season, I came up with the idea of like. Sorry, I cut out for a second. Like at the beginning of the season, I said come with do an Eagles video once a week, just like really basic, like 10 to 15 minutes, and like you didn't do one the entire season.
That is correct.
So like I'm just like even like on like I would just challenge. I've said this to you like a million times, so like I don't
But
want
see,
to
I
sound like
like
I'm
talking
beating a
about the
dead
Eagles.
horse.
Like I like talking I like talking to you about this stuff. I'll be honest, I hate just talking into a mic by myself, just like like I'll be the format that I would prefer is much more back and forth like this. I hate
That's fine. That's fine then.
the Penn
But if
State
that was
stuff
the
is like
case,
I do it because I love Penn State, but I much rather do like back and forth about this stuff with you than just me rambling into a
that's completely fine. Then if that's the case, you should have stated that. And you should have like how I'm gonna have I have like 5 videos like fleshed out here, like on my notes that I have. Like then if that's the case and like that's like what you had in your mind, then like you should just be like, okay, like all right, now it goes. Like now it's like Philadelphia Eagles talk. Like this is what I
yeah,
want to talk about and like take over. And like that's completely fine. Like that's nothing like that's you should voice that and like like I said, take control and take over and like do
that's
that. And
fair.
like
Yeah,
if you have like that idea, and then you could be like, this is what I want this title to be because this is what we talked about, and this is how I want it framed, and this is how I want it viewed, and this is how I want it consumed like by the public. Like you need
right.
to also think in that manner as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. You're right. You're very right about that. I agree with you.
So that I'd say like that is like one thing, obviously, like and then like you need to like me as well. Like there is one video on the channel that is called the create like world building or something like that. Like and it's just me. I spend a little bit more time on the video. It has like the highest retention rate. It's got like over 1,000 views. It like literally like like 7 months into the video, like it like spiked like 500 views and like had its moment. Like people like really like it, have asked to see like more like content like that like on the channel. Like then like that's on me. You know what I mean? Like I need to like do that as well, just as much as like
Right.
you should have an idea like that. Like I also need to like step up on like that front as well, where like people have asked for something like on a channel and like continue to like do things like similar to that. So
Right.
Just completely like talking out loud because like it just hasn't like the one video like I like tuned up like with the Drake May, George Pickens, and like Brees Hall thing, and it got like 500 views. And I like
Yeah.
sat there and like had that, you know what I mean? Like had the idea, had the
Yeah.
thumbnail, had the title, like all before like we recorded. Like that thought process when you're doing all of this is like just as important as like the video, like talking
This
in the
part of it.
video and stuff.
Yes.
And
Yes.
if not more important.
Yeah. I agree with you because too that is how like the video gets all over the place and is viewed and gets everything else. That's like how it is driven to everybody else rather than just sitting on our page and nobody seeing it.
Yeah. So that's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to say, like, if you didn't want to do something, obviously, like, don't feel the need that you have to like stick around or do whatever, like, obviously. But if you are gonna do it, like, or if you are going through like a creative drought or whatever, there's nothing wrong with that. But like, just keep trying and like
Yeah.
throwing darts at the wall and like I've said this like a million times. Like, I have no issue like editing a video for you and like posting it.
I
I have
know.
no issue like doing all of that. So like if that resource is like available to you, like I would like just like continue to try to figure something out. And I'm not saying spend 40 hours a week on it, but like
I know.
definitely spend some sort of time on it. But yeah.
Right.
I
got you.
All right, cool.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate it.
And it looks like we can start because my DoorDash driver is on a bike and it's 30 degrees outside. So
Oh God,
my food's going to be freezing cold.
no,
This Chipotle's far. Like Chipotle's far from where where I live. You know where the Chipotle is. It's kind of.
Is
far.
it the one? Which one are you? The one on the pike?
No, like the one. It's still far. I mean, it's a 10-minute drive. It's like an 8-minute drive. Would you say that's fair?
The one by Giant?
Yeah, it's like an 8-minute drive.
I mean, yeah, on bike for sure. Yeah,
on a bike, it's like 15 minutes probably, like 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I respect the grind because that is very often how it is in Philly is people delivering on bikes.
That makes a little more sense probably in the city of Philadelphia.
100%.
A little bit more.
It's no joke whipping around in the cold delivering food all evening.
It's disgusting. Well, just to get into it, since I have a little bit of time here, like we're gonna go over week 11, some week 11 reactions. I want to talk about obviously best win, worst loss. I like that what we've been doing over the last few weeks. I want to talk about how the Andy Reid era, in my opinion, is probably coming close to an end in Kansas City, and see what you have to think about that. And then worst loss, obviously, and then I want to talk a little bit more about the Seattle Seahawks. So let's get into it. The best win that I had for this week, I had Broncos. They win 8 straight. They win at home at versus the Chiefs. They win 22-19. Plain flat and simple, like Bo Nix was the reason why they won this game finally. I think that there's like a highlight reel of this season where like Bo Nix misses the deep throw on a guy. Like there's probably a million throws like that. I'm so hot and cold on him, but I think Tyler texted me and you the other week and he was like, who are some teams that like scare you the most in the NFL? And I put the Broncos like firmly on that list because they, at a point, like you have to put aside the fact, like I listened to a podcast today where somebody said the Chiefs, well, the Chiefs are losing close games and they're just unlucky. It's like, okay, well then, like if you're doing that comparison on the flip side of things, you have to sit there and be like, well, the Broncos are winning close games and they're doing it at a consistent rate. And they look pretty good. They have a great defense, obviously. Their offense is hit or miss at times, but I think that they can do enough to like win these football games. And they're 2 close games away this season from being completely undefeated. They obviously lost to 3 to the Chargers. And then maybe on one of the worst calls of the entire year this year was that like leverage call against the Colts. Yeah. And then they lose by 1 to them. Their defense is allowing 17 points per game. They've only allowed 17 touchdowns this year. They have 49 sacks on the year, and they're playing with their hair lit on fire legitimately every single year. The offense is a little bit limited, as I stated. Obviously, the J.K. Dobbins injury hurts a little bit, losing him, but maybe they can have that running back by committee and figure it out. I think that they can do that. I think RJ Harvey can be good enough. And no reason to consider this team not one of the top teams in the NFL. They go out every single week and take care of business. And then the last thing, and then you can chime in and we can talk from there. We compare the models of what has been successful in the NFL over the last few years, and that is high-end elite defensive play, and then an offense that has a good run game and can get it done in the passing game from time to time. I think of the Bills, Chiefs, and Eagles who have been successful in this last 3 to 4 year tenure. The Broncos are built just like those teams. Do I think that they're going to go out and win the Super Bowl this year? I think that would be a little bit of an overstatement, but I think that they're firmly in the mix of being a true contender in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to admit it, but I think it's time to say that I was wrong about the Broncos. This team is the AFC version of the Eagles. And I think you covered that great with what you just said there. They are phenomenal on defense, and they just find ways to win on offense and win these tight, close games. And that's extremely similar to what Philadelphia has done the last handful of years. It's not necessarily pretty week to week with how they do it, but they continuously are pulling these games out. And Bo Nix is playing at his best when it matters most and figuring out ways to win every single week. So I agree with you. I think this was the best win of the week, and I don't think it was particularly close. I have another game that isn't as good, but I think just from a overall, if you're a fan of this team, you're probably holy shit, I can't believe we're finally at this point. But yeah, the Broncos are good. They're one of the best teams in the NFL, and they're just going to be a tough out. That defense is just so nasty, and their offensive line has been doing a very good job too.
Yeah, I think no matter what, I know that you can sit here and say the Chiefs are 5-5, but regardless, you look at the Chiefs as still as a top contender. I forget what website it is exactly, but if you put the Chiefs up against any team on a neutral field in the entire NFL, they're favored against them on a website that predicts lines or something like that. So obviously everybody still thinks very highly of the Chiefs. They're obviously still the team to beat, even though they're currently not in the playoffs. And to go and to win a close one against the Chiefs, where historically the Chiefs have won those close battles like that against all teams, including the Broncos over the last few years, you have to sit there and be that's a really great win for us, and we feel good about that moving forward, because in the past we're not winning this football game.
Yeah, and with that win against the Chiefs, they're sitting firmly atop of the AFC West, and I don't really think the Chargers are dealing with all these injuries. I don't think they stand a chance. The Raiders are done for, and then the Chiefs are obviously sitting there at third place. But I think obviously this is going to be Denver's division at this point. I just don't think that the Chargers have enough left in the tank to. You could.
There's a fly in my room. Sorry.
No, I just don't think the Chargers are healthy enough to be able to pull this comeback off. And even if they were, I mean, I know that they won at the beginning of the year against the Broncos, but I'm sorry, they played. They didn't play at the beginning of the year yet, did they? I'm thinking of the Chiefs.
They have not.
Even if they were healthy, this Broncos team is just playing on a different level right now.
Yeah, who was your best win of the entire weekend?
So anytime you beat the Chiefs, obviously, I feel like that's a great win. But mine is going to be the Carolina Panthers. The performance that Bryce Young had, 448 yards, 3 touchdowns. He broke Cam Newton's single game passing record, I believe. Ted McMillan had the best game of his career thus far. And this is the first time the Panthers are over 500 in 4 years probably. So
yeah, I'm not sure
who knows how long this will actually last, because they do have a decently tough schedule the rest of the way. But if you're a Panthers fan, to finally be over 500 for the first time in however long has got to be a good feeling. And again, I don't know how long this will last, and I don't know if this was like the game that Bryce Young put it all together, or if it was just a game against the Falcons. But I thought he looked his best thus far. Obviously, you don't throw for 450 yards basically if you look terrible. But I think this was a great win for them, huge win for them. Build some momentum as they go into a tough part of the schedule, and then on the flip side, if you're the Falcons, you're just in free fall at this point. So um, I loved that win for Carolina, and I think they deserved a good amount of recognition for it.
We like just talked about them, like the Falcons, like the other day, and we were just like they need to fire everyone, and then to go
Yeah,
out this week and then they get swept. You know what I mean? They get swept
yeah,
by the Carolina Panthers on the season. It's just like, yeah, I mean, it's over. Like, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like it's time to move on from everybody.
yeah,
As for Bryce Young and his performance, I mean, this is the guy who, like you talked about, he's an undersized quarterback who can make like the big time throws, who could be a dead eye, and he was on full display of that this weekend. And actually watched that game. He has like some real irrational confidence, and some of the throws that
he
he was
does.
ripping, like really backs that up. But the footing that he found late in the season last year, where he started to gain some of that confidence, and now going into this season where he's had some lows, but to have a game like this where the high was really, really high and shows that
Yeah.
he is the guy moving forward for the Carolina Panthers. I mean, you have to feel good about that. I think him and Dave Canales are obviously a good connection, and he's bringing the best out in him, even bringing more of that confidence out that he had late in the season last year. And then, yeah, obviously being able to finally have Tet McMillan like show out and ball,
Unlock, basically.
even though he's had a good year. I was last night, somebody
Yes.
said to me like, who wins offensive rookie of the year, like, and somebody was like Emeka Ibuka, like, no doubt. And it's like, well, Tet's got more yards than him officially, and it feels like that he's probably going to get fed a little bit more than him the rest of the year. So what was at stake for the Carolina Panthers? What was at stake for Bryce Young going into the season where there were so many questions if he could be a guy moving forward? And I don't think that like he is like a solidified like top 5 quarterback in the NFL by any stretch of the imagination, but I think of what he's been building on, it just shows that like he's still worth keeping around, like moving forward, like no matter what. I mean, the Panthers are like a few games out from a playoff spot, like one game out from a playoff spot, and I think like going down the stretch, I think that there's a real possibility that we could see the Panthers in the playoffs this year.
They're about to go into a tough stretch here, the back end of the schedule. So I think it'll be tough, but the way that Tampa Bay has been playing, I think they're a half game back at Tampa Bay at this point in their division. Like, I'm not fully ruling them out because Tampa Bay has not been playing well these last few weeks. They've dropped a few games, but um, just looking at the rest of the Panthers schedule along the way, it's at the 49ers this week. They play the Rams, Saints, Bucks, Seahawks, Bucks. So like it's not out of the question by any means. You got to win at least one or two against the Bucks, and then I think you got to win probably two more. If you go 500 the rest of the way, I think you can win that division if you're Carolina. But the Bryce Young thing that I wanted to mention was also just the fact of like the irrational confidence piece. I think is extremely important if you're a young quarterback. If you are able to like if you're a coaching staff that is able to kind of keep that in check. Like if I'm a coaching staff and I'm seeing a quarterback that is just afraid to push the football down the field, taking the check downs, not getting necessarily aggressive, being afraid to make mistakes, that's almost equal as a red flag to me as somebody who's just winging it all over the field with no regard for society. Because there is going to be a point where you have to rip the 15-yard dig, or you have to rip a 25-yard comeback on the opposite side of the field, and it's like, can you do that? Are you afraid to do that? if you have the arm strength, of course, right? And I think Bryce Young's arm's probably strong enough to make those throws and rip it, but like having
Absolutely.
having that aspect, I think is very important. So like it's good to see him finally rip some of those throws, and he kind of put that here on display against Atlanta over the weekend.
Yeah, like the deeper metrics of Bryce Young like still aren't great, but like I said, he's not. I'm not. We're not sitting here trying to say that he's like the best
No.
quarterback in the NFL. We're just saying we're here to say that the Panthers obviously are improving every single season. Bryce Young is now improving every single season, and let's see if they can make a playoff run this year, which would be crazy.
Yeah, right now as it stands, I'm looking at his stats compared to last year. In 2024, he had 2,400 yards, threw for 15 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. This year, he's already at 1,900 yards, 14 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. So he's trending in the right direction, kind of like you said.
Let's get back into it. Worst loss of the entire weekend. I think we're probably going to have the same one because it seems like a little easy. Like when you look across the board, the Chargers lose
Yeah.
35-6 at Jacksonville. This is a really weird like observation, I think, but like I don't think the Chargers travel well because there's been multiple times this season where they have been in the 1 o'clock time slate and have gone from the West Coast to the East Coast and have laid an egg. They did it against the Giants and they did it
Yep.
against the Jacksonville Jaguars, where they just looked all out of sorts in every sense of the word. So I don't know what's going on, but like that, this isn't like a. Am I worried about is this like a loss where I'm sitting here like worried about the Chargers? No. They just
I,
didn't
I
play well.
I'm kind of worried about the Chargers.
Well, Justin Herbert finished with 81 yards on the weekend, like and got benched because they weren't doing well. This team's obviously been plagued with injuries, but like this is a travel issue. Like this has been because when they play at other times, when they play at home, when they play at night or whatever, they don't have these struggles. But you're going when you go from the West Coast to the East Coast at the 1 o'clock time slate, they seem that like their brain breaks and they're not able to do anything. That's what I have. That's my takeaway from this weekend, and it's weird. And maybe I should be worried about the Chargers, but I'm not. Like they're still 7-4. You know what I mean? They're still like in
Yeah.
a spot where they can win 10 games, and they probably will win 10 games with all of the injuries that they've had. But like this issue where like you literally just like flat don't show up against some of the worst teams on the East Coast, like you need to figure that out.
Yeah, that's where my concern lies is like you're going to the East Coast and you're losing to teams like the Jaguars are coming off a stretch where let me read this off to you. They're coming off a stretch where they lost to the Seahawks, they got smoked by the Rams, they squeaked by the Raiders, and then they just had like one of the worst blowups of the year in the fourth quarter against the Texans the week prior. So they're certainly trending downwards in this 4 game stretch, and then for the Chargers to go in there and just look absolutely helpless is why I'm concerned about the Chargers a little bit, right? Like I feel like a loss. I understand losses happen in the NFL, but like there's certain times where you watch a game and it's like, yeah, I feel like this is a room. This is a at this point in the season, I feel like it's okay to be a little worried about the Chargers because what happened? They're not gonna be a one like they're not gonna be the 1 seed. So like they're gonna end up having to travel across the country to play somebody, and it's gonna be like a Patriots team, or it might be the Broncos, which isn't that far, but it could be the Patriots, it could be the Bills, it could be the Ravens. Like it's probably not gonna be the Bills. It's gonna be the Patriots, but one of those Bills Patriots are like, I mean, Ravens Patriots, that's 2 teams on the East Coast where like that's not going to be easy.
Yeah, I guess my proposal to you is just they're 7-4. They're second in the AFC West. It looks like they probably will finish second in the AFC West.
I agree.
It'll be between them and the Chiefs. I like them a little bit more than the Chiefs. They have had multitude of injuries along the offensive line. They lost their offensive, like they lost their first round rookie running back for pretty much the whole season. They've had some injuries along the defense. Like I wouldn't say I'm worried about them.
But
I guess I just
that's
think
my
that this is
concern
like
too.
I think this is just like this is like where they're at. Like, and I think that like I even think them being at 7 wins at this point of the season goes to show you like how good of a football team they are. Because I think that you could this if you put this situation on like majority of the teams in the NFL, like I could see a lot of these teams crumbling like at the thought of this happening, like of everything that has gone on with the Chargers this season.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. Like when you put it through that lens, I do agree. They could be significantly worse off than what they are at this point. But I mean, if they don't finish out the season strong, like and you limp into the playoffs, like that's never where you want to be. And there's a scenario where that happens where they'll probably finish second. They win. Let me see what the rest of the schedule looks like here.
They have Vegas, Philly, Kansas City, Dallas, Houston, and Denver.
And that Denver game is almost a throwaway for the Broncos because I would imagine they would have
They
the
might be
division.
resting. Yeah, they might be resting their starters.
True. So they could win. Yeah, they
10
could end
games.
up finishing out 3-3. But I think it's besides there's none of these games are a walk in the park though. Like the Texans defense is really good, and the issue for the Chargers is they cannot protect Justin Herbert.
Well, they have the bye. They have a late bye, much needed late bye for them right now. So I think like getting an opportunity to like reset after like they just went through a whole stretch of 11 weeks. They finally get this late bye. Can
True.
they come out firing in these last few weeks? Can Omarion Hampton open up could he be back after the bye week? I've seen
Fair.
that like that's a possibility. Like there could be a lot of things that could like change for this team, but I do think that it's extremely weird that like the 2 times that they have gone across to the East Coast this season to play at the 1 o'clock slate that they've laid a complete egg.
What time was the oh, they played what time did they play the Colts? Was that a one
They
o'clock
played them at
game?
1 o'clock.
Yeah, and they lost that game too. Yeah, I mean, good thing for them is like say they are in the playoffs, their saving grace if they do end up on the East Coast is usually those games are at like 4:25 or 8 o'clock.
They can't play at the 1 o'clock slate because
Yeah.
what time is it there? Like 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, 10. Yeah,
That's
nah,
weird.
10.
That's very, very weird. But that was my takeaway from that. Like where I was like looking at what was going on, and obviously Justin Herbert needs to play better. Obviously, Justin Herbert will play better than the performance that he put out like this past weekend. It was just like again, like it was to the point where they couldn't do anything, and they were just like throw Trey Lance out there, like we're cooked. So it just was like I said, I think that was it might have been one of the worst losses of the entire season. Like to go out there 35-6 at Jacksonville and to just not show up in any capacity, being one of those teams in the NFL where you're viewed as like a playoff contender
Yeah.
at least, like at the bare minimum. So not a great look for the Chargers this weekend.
No, that's for sure the worst loss. I mean, I'm looking around just kind of thinking about the games from the rest of the weekend and like a lot of these games were either close or teams that won you almost expected them to win. So like I don't really think the losses were that bad. I mean, there's potentially a case for the Buccaneers the way that the Bills have kind of been playing a little bit throughout the season, but I think it just kind of goes to show that the Bills
Still the Bills.
are still the Bills, right? And I'm looking at it right now. They're 5-1 at home, and like they play well at home, and we saw that again this weekend. So like I don't even consider that loss to be even that bad.
I'm right with you. Do you have a worse loss, or was that your?
I
Was
mean,
that yours? Someone's mine.
I mean, I think you could make. I don't think it's like a worse law, like the worst one, but the a tough loss more so is the Minnesota Vikings loss to the Bears over this weekend. JJ McCarthy looked dead for 3 quarters, and then 9
Unusual.
showed up late in the fourth quarter,
Yeah, he
takes him
did.
down to score a touchdown to take the lead with what, like 30 seconds, 35 seconds left. Devin Duvernay returns the kickoff into field goal territory basically off the bat, and they lose in a heartbreaker like that. It's just, that's a brutal loss too for a Vikings team that needs to win as many games as they can down this, like, through the second half of this season here, because they're you haven't ruled them dead. I think they're dead, but
Well, we'll get into that next episode probably where we'll reassess everything, but I think that's probably like safe to say with where the standings are at currently.
yeah. Yeah, but I think that's just a heartbreaker. If you come out of that looking at 5-5 and rather than 4-6, obviously you're going to feel a lot better trending the rest of the year. But like, that's a brutal one to lose. And if you're a Vikings fan, you're looking at it and probably thinking to yourself, like, where is JJ McCarthy? Where's 9 at for the rest of the 3 quarters of this game? Why is he only capable of showing up at the very last minute?
I love 9.
I mean, I'll give him credit where it's due. He's put together drives at late in games that have put them in great spots, have put them ahead, and they just have not been able to close the book and get some wins in some of those scenarios. So who knows? I think the important thing, and I listened to Rosillo say this too, is like, I don't think he's like a bust by any means, because he just hasn't played enough football yet in the NFL for me to like fully have a concrete opinion on him. And that was my whole thing going into this season. It was, I just don't know what I'm getting yet. And I think that the people that are saying that he's a bust, it's a little too early to make that determination on a guy like JJ McCarthy. I think he's shown some things, but I don't think I rule him quite as a bust yet. Like, what do you think?
No, probably not. I mean, there's just so much left to be done with his career.
Yeah.
He came in, played a game and a half, and then missed a month, and then
Yeah,
came
like,
back. And it's just like, he obviously needs to stay healthy. He obviously needs to play better. I don't think that that's the problem. I don't think
no.
it's a confidence. I think he plays a lot with confidence, and that's a good thing. And if stuff isn't there, like, probably figure out a way to handle things breaking around you better than what you have. But you look at like what Minnesota has, like their run game is like garbage, honestly.
It's
Like
bad.
their run game just like not very good. And I think when you look at the quarterbacks like across the NFL, like the ones who are obviously not like the special ones, like if you like drop Lamar into any offense, like it's automatically a top 10 offense. He's like
It's a
kickstarter for
problem
a top
solver.
10 offense.
Yeah.
Like as somebody who like needs like some like a lot like a Shanahan, for example,
Structure.
you look at what they're doing in in San Francisco this year, where it's all predicated on like the run game and being able to
Play
use 2
action.
running
And
backs,
yeah.
and that allows Shanahan to do things in the play action pass game and the regular pass game. And I think that that's what Kevin O'Connell needs to get to. I think that's what JJ McCarthy needs to like really open up and be successful. But yeah, I wouldn't consider him a bust. And I think that he is going to firmly be the quarterback next year for the Vikings. I mean,
Yeah.
I just feel like it would be a hard pivot for them to get rid of him just like after like a bad year, when I I understand that people probably thought that they would be a contender, but they weren't a contender last year and they're not a contender this year, so not much has changed. That even though they were successful last year and winning a ton of games.
Yeah. And Anthony Richardson got what, 2 seasons, a season and a
Yeah.
half worth of games in the NFL. Like, if you're pulling it probably doesn't get much shorter of a time frame than that. Like, you're almost guaranteed like a season and a half as an NFL quarterback if you're like a rookie like him, or in your first 2 years, unless you're absolutely horrible. So I agree. I think he will be the quarterback for the rest of this season and for next year, but he's definitely have some room to grow. One of the things that I was thinking too is just I think he's a pretty good athlete, and I think he could. I think it opens things up for them too if he's moving in the pocket and running the football. But my only like pushback on that to my own thought process is like it feels like all these guys now that are running and that are a little bit more mobile are just getting hurt. Like I'm worried about Caleb Williams getting hurt too because he's really great at avoiding pressure and getting out of the pocket, but like it seems like the more and more that these guys are running, they're bound to get hurt. Like so who like Jackson Dart, I mean Dable, to be fair, kind of ran him into the ground, but Jaden Daniels got hurt, like
Literally.
Jackson Dart got hurt. Like, yes, it can be beneficial and help your offense, but like not having to play Carson Wentz is probably pretty beneficial too.
Absolutely. I'm right with you.
So
There's two more things I wanted to get to, and this is just another team where we've been a little silent on them since the season has started, but we had bold predictions about them coming into the season, and it's just because I really wanted to see everything play out before I commented on it. And I think this past weekend is really indicative of like who this team is. And I'm talking about the Seattle Seahawks, who right now they sit at 7-3. They're second in the NFC West. This current season right now, the Seahawks have scored at least 30 points in the first half of 3 games. This is the first time this has ever been done since the year 2000. They had a 38-point first half against the Saints, a 38-point first half against the Cardinals. Jackson Smith and Jigba has like firmly solidified himself as one of the top wide receivers in the NFL. This offense looks incredible. This defense plays incredible at times where they they feel like it's like a boxer almost, the way that this defense feels, where they will potentially take some shots and then like adjust like a Floyd Mayweather and then like adjust accordingly and then can completely dominate. They have a really good run defense, and obviously Mike McDonald's a really good head coach. But really what I'm getting to with all of this is I just think that with all of that being said, how exciting this team has been on offense, how great this defense has been, and how good Mike McDonald has been. I just think the Seattle Seahawks have a Sam Darnold problem. I think that he gives a team a very right now within his career. I think he has like a high floor where he can give this team like stability. I think that he can have some really great outputs throughout the course of a season, like statistically and like I said, like I mean, look at JSN this season. He's literally an animal. But you look at what they've done so far this season, and it's really eerily similar to last year what happened in Minnesota. And I start with that by saying their losses, the only time that they lose is against bad teams, against good teams. They lose to the
yes,
49ers to open up the season. They lose to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are, like I said, a perennial playoff team over the last few years. And they go out this weekend and they lose to the Los Angeles Rams. And their best win on the season right now I'm looking at is like Pittsburgh. They win 31-17, but Pittsburgh's so fickle on a week-to-week basis that I don't know how great of a win that could possibly be. So they got Pittsburgh, New Orleans, Arizona, Jacksonville, Houston, Washington, and Arizona again. I mean, they are not beating teams who are going to be in the playoffs this season. Anytime they've matched up with a team who will be in the playoffs, like for whatever reason, it just seems like they can't get it done. And I want to just go specifically to Sam Darnold's struggle against the Rams, because now he's going to be playing the Rams and the 49ers as well. I should have pulled it with the 49ers to see what
yeah.
he did against them. But he's going to be playing the 49ers 2 times a year. What happened last year when he was
Same with the Rams?
The two teams that he struggled against last year, the only 2 teams that he lost to the entire year was the LA Rams and the Detroit Lions. Whenever he faced those 2 teams, he just like broke mentally. So I went back, and Sam Darnold struggles versus the Ram. I went back to 2023, lost 21-20, 160 yards, a touchdown, 3 sacks. 2024, a loss, 30-20. 240 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 sacks. 2024 against the Rams, 27 to 9, 245 yards, a touchdown, interception, sacked 9 times. And then this year, this year in 2025, this past weekend, lost 21-19, 279 yards, 0 touchdowns, 4 picks, and sacked 4 times. So they clearly have some sort of formula, because why can't he beat the Rams? Why can't he beat these teams that are clearly in like a specific class of team where you're going into every single season and you know what you're getting out of them? You know that the Niners are going to be good. You know the Los Angeles Rams are going to be good, for example. They are playing like one of the best teams in the NFL, but so were the Vikings last season. Vikings stacked up 14 wins. They were balling out. And whenever they went up against a different upper echelon of talent, it seemed like Sam Darnold broke and he wasn't able to get it done. And I'm seeing the same trend this year on the
100%.
Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, my only like pushback is like those two teams are really good. Like the Niners and the Rams are consistently two of the better teams in the NFL when they're not dealing with tons of injuries. But I also do agree. I think it's also a Sam Darnold issue too. I think it's a combination of they're just really good. They're really good teams coached by really good coaches, and those guys make it difficult for opposing offenses. But at the same time, like especially Sam Darnold, because you just ran the numbers and he hasn't had a good game against those guys in what, 3 years. So I think that's pretty spot. Yeah, ever
in his career.
Ever.
Yeah.
So like, I agree. I think that he brings a very safe floor to your organization. Like, you know that you're going to be able to go out there and you're going to take care of business against a team like the Saints or the team like the Cardinals this year. But when you get to those high leverage games, when you're playing up against when you're in a playoff scenario, and I know this obviously wasn't a playoff game, but like the Rams are a playoff team. They're extremely difficult to play, very well coached. Like that's a potential playoff matchup that you're going to see down the road. Like he just has not been able to get it done. And I don't know if it's a mental thing or what, but clearly something happens and
they have the
playbook
against him.
They have the remedy
to beat them, because there's a clear like tick where like he goes and plays these teams. There's an uptick in sacks. There's an uptick in his propensity to turn the ball over, and he's just not winning these games. So like whenever you're going up against the top talent in the NFC, like if you can't win those football games, then like that's the issue. That's the issue that he's been facing his entire career so far. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say there could be a case to be made too, like if he actually had a couple decent games mixed in there, but it's just been like snooze fest after snooze fest for him, and every single time they play. And I think if you're the Seahawks, you have to look at it and figure out like, what do we have to do to get this guy to just play average in one of these games? Like he's not even giving you really average performances, because I do think the Seahawks are a good team and they're a good club. And it's not like they went out there and got absolutely smoked all day. Like they lost by
MS1.
They lost. It was a 1-possession game, and they started out really hot. They were up 14-0 or 14-3 in the first quarter, I think, if I remember correctly. But was it the Seahawks or was it the Niners that were up early?
They played the Rams last week, and the Rams went up 14-3 early.
Either way, they're in these games. Like they're in this game, and you just have to figure out a way to get a average performance out of Sam Darnold, because the rest of the Seahawks team is good. Their defense, like you said, is really strong, and I think having a guy like JSN on offense is an extremely nice safety valve to have. But you got to figure out a way to limit the turnovers and to just get baseline performance out of Sam Darnold, and I think you win this game.
Yeah, I mean it's close. This defense obviously kept it extremely close. The positive side of this all is obviously like This offense is really talented. They're really fun to watch. They're really good on defense. I want to see them do something in the playoffs this year. Where did I think that they were going to be this good as they were right now? Not at all. But even with that being said, like hats off to them. They're really fun to watch this season. I love JSN. I'm the biggest JSN fan. I watch his Rose Bowl highlights like every 3 months.
That game was
So like
crazy.
so I'm happy that they're all doing well, and I think that the GM has done a really good job. I think he looks like a genius right now because Gino has obviously looked like absolute shit. Sam Darnold's come in, has like unlocked this offense. The Kubiak hire is like a genius hire at this
Has been
point.
very good, yeah.
So everything looks really good, but like now we're sitting here and like, yes, we are talking about the Seahawks in a different manner because as their fans, their fans would sit here and watch the original video and their original comment would be like, well, you didn't think we'd be this good. It's like, okay, yeah, they are this good and that's
Correct.
fine.
We were wrong about that.
Now it's like their fans and other people are considering them a potential contender. And I'm sitting here probably like pumping the brakes and easing on that idea just because of who they have at quarterback. I think that, like I said it when we started, it's like the Jared Goff's problem. It's like the other like, you know what I mean? I always use Jared Goff as the example with the Lions. Like, I think that like you can get to a certain point, you can have a really fun offense, you can do all of this, but like when it gets tight, when things aren't going your way, when everything's not perfect, I could see it kind of backfiring a little bit and those guys not being problem solvers, but then could potentially cause more problems for this team. And that's exactly what happened this week when Sam Darnold threw 4 picks.
Yeah, and on the flip side, like I feel like you have to give credit where credit is due to this Rams team because they're just one of the best teams in the NFL. And I know that Matt Stafford didn't go out there and throw for 350 yards, throw it all over the field, but like he still had 2 touchdowns. The Rams are really freaking good. They're really well coached, and they had Sam Darnold and JSN in hell actually this entire game.
Absolutely.
So I agree. I think it's just going to be tough sledding for the Seahawks when you get to the playoffs if your quarterback is going to be Sam Darnold. And the thing is like, can you win a game like where you're not supposed to win with Sam Darnold as your quarterback? And I think that until we see that, the answer is probably no.
I'm right there.
He hasn't done it before, but that doesn't mean you can't. But as of right now, I'd be skeptical to pick Sam Darnold against the Rams, the Eagles,
the Niners.
The Niners, like there's probably 3 other teams in there that I wouldn't pick.
The Jets. I'm just kidding.
The Jets. No, but there's probably 2 or 3 other teams that I probably. The thing is like I think they can win a game where the quarterback matchup is even because I think the defense is so good. But when you get up against a team like the Rams or a team that is just stacked, I think it's just going to be really difficult for Sam Darnold.
Absolutely. Last thing on the agenda today, I need you to take a walk with me on this one and let this develop because I think we're in for an interesting time here. And I said this earlier, but I just flat think that the Andy Reid era in Kansas City is coming to an end. We're watching it dwindle in front of us. Last year, probably in December, we made a video.
We lost him.
What's the last thing you heard?
We made a video of Andy Reid in December.
We made a video about the Chiefs in December, probably of last year, where we said it's time to have an uncomfortable conversation about the Kansas City Chiefs. Did they go on then and play in the Super Bowl? Absolutely. But really the underlying message of that entire video was like the Chiefs keep slapping a Band-Aid over a problem that like at some point it will get exposed. And then it got absolutely exposed in the Super Bowl where they just got absolutely demolished. They didn't even put up a fight and got blown out on the biggest stage of the entire year. And all of the issues with the Chiefs finally like came to light, like with their defense, with the offensive line, with the weapons, the entire nine. So after a 5-5 start to this season, it feels like the first time in the Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes era where we have ever felt like a little validated for questioning this football team. And I almost think that like it could be one of those situations where like the Andy Reid voice has like potentially grown a little stale within the Kansas City Chiefs organization.
And I don't necessarily think you're wrong, but do I think that my pushback to that is, do I think that one missed playoff season is enough for them to move on from Andy Reid? I think in the grand scheme of things, probably not. But I think if you dive deeper and kind of look at how the last, what, 11 games has went for the Chiefs, like they haven't it's finally gotten to the point where things aren't bouncing their way, and they actually have to put together a full game and have not been able to do it on a consistent basis. And
Yeah, I
so,
do. I do think that like when you go into a deeper dive, like I pulled some of this as of right now. So 2021 regular season, they're averaging 22.88 points per game. Postseason, 36 points per game. In 2022, in the regular season, they were averaging 29.2 points per game. Postseason, 29.3. In 2023, the regular season, they were averaging 21.8 points. That's where the downtick happens. That's where Eric
yeah,
Bieniemy leaves. And then the postseason, they're averaging 23.8, excuse me. And then the 2024 regular season, they were averaging 22.6 points, postseason 25.7. And now this year in 2025, they're averaging 25.4 points. So we're sitting here talking about like since the Eric Bieniemy absent, since he's left the team, they're almost missing like an entire like touchdown, and in some seasons a touchdown and a field goal. The list of coordinators, like I said, Eric Bieniemy was in the 2021, 2022, and then Matt Nagy from 2023, 2024 to 2025. Andy Reid does have play calling responsibilities, but I have like alluded to this like a few times when we talked about like quarterback rankings and what do we think about Patrick Mahomes. Really, when it comes down to it, nothing that the Kansas City Chiefs do on offense is impressive. It's as soon as the ball gets snapped, it's Patrick Mahomes, please bail us out and figure this out. Their passing concepts aren't anything crazy. The cute little dumbass play designs where they do ring around the rosy and stuff like that have like run completely dry and stale, and like they don't really do anything like that anymore because they just don't have the personnel to pull that off. And I think that it's
that
to
was
the point
also at a
now where
time where they were playing like the best football. That was like the peak Chiefs where they were playing so well that they thought they could just do whatever they wanted.
yeah, and like I said, it's just constantly like Patrick Mahomes bail us out because if you look, there's still problems along the offensive line. Something that we were both worried about going in. They have not been able to properly scout a good offensive lineman for whatever reason for like the last like 5 years. I don't know what's
Yeah,
going on, even with the Josh Simmons situation where now he's been gone for like an entire month, I think, or like 3 weeks, something along those lines. They haven't
yeah.
said why. He hasn't played at all. And then the rest, Jawan Taylor's still an issue. And then you look at their running back room, Isaiah Pacheco is absolutely cooked and awful. You have Kareem Hunt playing for you, and there's just nothing that you have to respect about this run game. Then from the receiver's perspective, it's like, oh, we got Xavier Worthy. He's a dog. He's fast. Xavier Worthy is not good. He's just not very good, and that's fine. He's too small, and he's very fast, and he could be a good gadget player and can probably win over the top from time to time. But he's been extremely underwhelming this season, where the first play of the game, the first drive of the season, he hurts his shoulder because he just runs into Travis Kelce. Then Hollywood Brown, obviously, he's no good anymore. And then everybody was selling us on this idea is like when Rashee Rice gets back, it's going to completely unlock this offense. Although he has like looked good and they have like force fed him within the red zone to make sure he scores touchdowns and it looks flashy, he has not unlocked this offense in any way, shape, or form. So that's just
No.
something to also keep in mind with like this team is just like the wide receiving core is average. The offensive line is below average. The running back room is one of the worst in the entire NFL. And it's just like, Patrick Mahomes, please figure this out for us. And he does a
Yeah.
good job at that. But right now, it's to the point where they're not getting those bounces in these close games. And
No.
there's multiple reasons for that as well. Is you look at like, one, what happened on offense, but two, what's going on defense, because every single season they have lost one of their big names on the defensive side of the football, where they, although like you look at what happened with like a L'Jarius Sneed in like Tennessee, where he like fell off of a cliff. When he
He's
was
not even.
when he was with the Chiefs, he was a very high end player, a very good corner. And then you look at some of the players that they decided to move on from, and they lose talent out the door in the Spagnuolo defense. And then you bring back somebody like a George Karlaftis, where you sign him for a bunch of money, but he's not like that true like edge rusher who's going to like win every single big matchup. He's like average at best.
Dude,
So I think that, like,
watching
no,
George
you're fine.
Karlaftis play defensive end reminds me of like if you were to put like a defensive tackle out at defensive end. That's
Yeah.
like what it reminds me of when I watch him play.
Like an
He's
old
just like,
school D end. Yeah.
yeah, he's just like not like he's a fine player, don't get me wrong, but he is just like very forgettable is what it kind of feels like. And
I
I just
I
don't he's
completely
not
agree
like
with you.
he's not like a game breaker that they need along the defensive line. Like, yeah, they still have Chris Jones, but like he's at the back end of his career. And you would think that with the hopes of drafting a guy like Karlaftis that he would sort of come in and be able to kind of take over and establish himself as that guy along the defensive line for the foreseeable future. And it just hasn't worked out that way.
Yeah, and really the whole point of this is like this season alone feels like it's a little bit of an end of an era. Um, it's definitely in question, at least, because it feels like last year, if they won the Super Bowl, it seems like Andy Reid would have retired. It seems like
Yeah.
Travis Kelce would have retired, and it seems like that they would have been pushed to be in a different era of like Kansas City Chiefs football. And now this year they stay 1 year too long, and now we're like in serious jeopardy of the Chiefs potentially missing the playoffs this season for the first time in the Mahomes era, who has at least played in the Super Bowl or the AFC Championship since he's taken over as a starter for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yep.
So I have a proposition for you. And one, what do you think that there is any validity in what I have to say?
I think that the Chiefs have put themselves in such a high standard with the amount of success that they have had since Mahomes and Andy Reid have been there together that this season won't sit well. But I also think you can sit there and say, if you're a Chiefs fan, like, why would we ever move on from one of the best coaches in NFL history? Like, what does the future look like? And I think it's similar to like, I don't know like what
The
I don't
reasoning why
exactly.
the reasoning why you move on is because you know that having Patrick Mahomes
But
as your quarterback puts you in a position to compete for a Super Bowl.
is
Right
this
now,
a head coach Andy Reid issue, or is this a we haven't drafted well, um, and we haven't properly built this team issue? Which I
do
think some of
you
that falls on the
do
head
you
coach
think
too.
do you think that what the offense has looked like for the Kansas City Chiefs over the last like 2 seasons, maybe 2.5 seasons, has looked any sort of good? Because
I would
because I gave you seasons in 2021 and 2022 where they were putting up 30 points per game.
I know that, and I think that the last season and this season, I think that I think that the offense has obviously not looked great by any means. Um, but I don't. Also, we've sat here and just pretty much picked apart their entire offense from a player personnel point. Like we don't love any of the guys that they have. Their run game sucks. Their running back room's one of the worst. they don't really have like a cohesive wide receiver room. Their tight end is way past his prime at this point. Like he can still he had a decent game this weekend where he'll show you a flash here and there, but like he's not nearly what he was. But
Well, where is also like this issue with the offense as well, where like you even see like a Travis Kelce like legitimately like getting up in Andy Reid's face on multiple occasions and screaming
yes,
at him,
I
and
that's a
and
fair point.
that's where I just like sit here and say like Andy Reid's the reason why I say all of this is like if you do you think Andy Reid is going to be a head coach in the NFL for the next 5 years? I
No,
don't. There has
no,
been there has been tidbits of him retiring for the last 2 years, 3 years
yeah,
of him stepping away from the game. And last year was one of those times where it was like, if they win the Super Bowl, he's definitely retiring. So I
that's
think
fair.
at a point you have to sit there and question the fact, like, has his voice grown stale in that building? I think it has. I think that like what they asked Patrick Mahomes to do on a week to week basis, regardless of personnel, is like nothing about the offense is sophisticated in any way, shape, or form. And you can blame Matt Nagy for that a little bit. But at the end of the day, like Andy Reid is coined as like some sort of like offensive genius. He's coined as he is their play caller, and he has not been putting them in a position to succeed over the last 2 seasons on offense in any way, shape, or form. Every single thing that happens that's positive is because Patrick Mahomes is a freak and solves all issues.
Okay, so my next question to you is: do you think that this is an Andy Reid lead? Because this is what I think. I don't think that the Chiefs would force a guy out in Andy Reid that has had the amount of success that he's had. I think it would probably have to be a similar scenario to like maybe I mean maybe if they don't make the playoffs and they finish the year with a losing record, they mutually agree to part ways, similarly to how the Patriots did with Bill Belichick. But I don't think that if Andy Reid still wanted to coach, I don't think that the Chiefs would be the ones to say, no, you got to get out of here.
I personally disagree at this
You
point
think they would
because
be the ones to push him out?
yes,
You
because
don't think
you
it would be
sit
Andy Reid on his own?
no, we sit here and yes, we criticize the roster, but at the same time, this defense is like with Spagnola's DC, like is teetering to be like a top, like they're middle of the pack to like top 12 defense. On the
Yeah.
offensive side of things, like if I think if they had a more sophisticated pass game with all of the weapons that they have, I think that this offense could be even better than what it possibly is. Do I think their run game would still stink? Absolutely, because I just don't think they have anybody back there. But I don't think that they're putting themselves in a position to succeed on offense with their passing game in any way, shape, or form. Not Andy Reid. Patrick Mahomes is doing all of the heavy lifting. He's the one taking on the brunt of this force. So yes, I do think that there's a world where if the Chiefs go and they sit here and a team who has gone over the last 8 seasons and has played either in the Super Bowl, have won multiple Super Bowls, have played in the AFC championships, to now being 500 in 2025 and on the brink of potentially missing the playoffs. And then if you miss the playoffs or have an early exit, plain flat and simple, that is not the expectation that you need to have. And the
Mhm.
Chiefs are going to sit there and say, okay, what's the issue here? And I think the person that you can really point the blame in this stretch and this run and what happened in the Super Bowl and why the offense looked so bad the last year was Andy Reid. Although he's done a ton for this organization, like I said, at a point, voices grow stale in a building. And I think that
I
this is could
oh,
be
I'm
a
familiar.
situation. Yeah, that could be.
I'm all
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say I'm all too familiar with voices growing stale in a building. Um, but yeah, I think okay, to be fair, I think that it could be a scenario where it's like, yes, the Chiefs want him out, but for the fact of just like saving face, it is advertised as a mutual agreement to part ways because Andy.
That you're like caught up on like the language of like how they would
You're
like
right.
say
I am.
they would get
I
fired.
am.
He would be
Yes.
done. They would
Yes.
decide to move on from Andy Reid. Like and I think that they're no matter what, I genuinely think that even if they don't like quote unquote like part ways, I think that there's a real opportunity that Andy Reid just retires after the season no matter what. That's what I think.
I could see that. Yes, I could 100% seeing him. I could absolutely see him retire after this
Or
season.
or in another world where they're like, "Hey, are you thinking about retiring? Because we think you should retire." Like
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking.
like a Sopranos type situation where it's like, oh, you sure you want to do this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you
Eh,
want to do this.
So that leads me to my next question, where it's who could take over as the Kansas City Chiefs' next head coach? 7 times in the NFL, a head coach has gotten traded from their current organization to a new one. The reason I say that is because I don't believe that the Chiefs' next head coach is just some guy sitting out on the free agent market or an OC currently who's going to come in and be a whiz kid and be able to figure this out. I think that right now they are an employed head coach in the NFL, and I think that the Chiefs are going to have to make a trade to be able to get him. So historically, the trade packages that were made for like a said coach in the NFL includes multiple draft picks. So what this trade package looks like that I think is included is at least one first, a high end either second round and then either a second round pick or a middle round pick and then like a fifth round pick is historically over the last 7 coaches that have gotten moved. It's been about 3 picks and a guaranteed first in all of this. Some names over the years that have been traded in the NFL: Don Shula, Bill Parcells, Mike Holmgren, Bill Belichick, John Gruden. Some guys
Yep.
that some big time names there.
Yeah.
So I came up with a power rankings list of who I would get aggressive for if I was the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm going to read off these 3 names and then I want you to rank them afterwards. And I'm going to sell you on each one of these names.
Okay. Read me the
The
names, and then I'll rank them, and then you give me your case.
No, I'm gonna try to sell them to you, and then we'll do
Okay.
that.
Okay.
My first one on the list. It's not much. It's not much information. The first one on the list is Kyle Shanahan. He has won 60% of his games, 8-4 in the playoffs, 2 NFC championships, 3 NFC West divisions, 4 playoff berths. This gives him an opportunity to get out of the same division as Sean McVay and the Rams, Mike McDonald and the Seahawks. It's a very hard division to be competitive in year after year. The reason I say this is he has sat there with the 49ers year after year and has been so close and has not been able to get over the hump. Now you're sitting here, and I think that there might be a little bit of a question mark around the potential quarterback situation with the obviously Mac Jones comes in and plays really well. Brock Purdy is hit or miss from time to time. And could this be a possibility where Shanahan can finally go and get the big time job with the big time quarterback and completely unlock him, similarly to how Andy Reid was in Philadelphia, and then he goes and finally gets that quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. The next one on my list here, and this one is reverted back a little bit. I have John Harbaugh. He has won over 60% of his games, Super Bowl champion, won an AFC title, 6-time AFC North champ, 12 playoff berths, 1 coach of the year. Probably one of the most accomplished coaches currently in the NFL outside of Andy Reid. And again, this is another situation where has his voice grown tired in Baltimore, where if they miss the playoffs this season, or if they're a team that makes the playoffs and are an early exit, do they sit there and question what's going on in that building and what the future is? And could that be a guy that they can go and grab? The last person on this list right here is probably my dark horse one of somebody who I would throw in, but he's going to be a hot name no matter what. And that's Kevin O'Connell. So far, since he's taken over, he's won 63% of his games, won an NFC North championship, 2 playoff berths, and 1 coach of the year. And I think the reasoning for all of this, even though I do think JJ McCarthy will be the quarterback of next year for the Minnesota Vikings, that situation has clearly been a situation of like something to watch, where if there is any doubt around the quarterback situation, if there is any unhappiness, could this be a spot where they can go and grab him and bring one of like the best young minds in the NFL to the Kansas City Chiefs? So my first question is am I missing anybody on this list? And then 2, rank these. And then 3, is there anything else you want to add?
Why don't you have Nick Sirianni on this list?
I mean, nobody wants Nick.
Okay, so I have a question for you about this. Is there a argument to be had that draft capital is more important than them trading for one of those 3 guys because they need to improve this team elsewhere, and you'll still have a line of people, us probably still have a solid line of people to potentially be the head
You're
coach
the
of the Kansas City
same
Chiefs?
dude. You're the same dude that a month ago, like, threw out the idea of, like, paying Kyle Shanahan, like, $350 million.
But I wasn't agreeing with it. I was just throwing it out there.
No, I don't. I think that what is most important with the Patrick Mahomes era is figuring out who the next head coach is to set them up for success during the entire Mahomes tenure. If there's any question mark around who this coach could be, I think that's just the biggest issue of all time. So I think that, like, even the draft capital that I listed here might be
Yeah.
light. I think that they would even consider potentially trading more just to be able to confirm and solidify that they're going to have that guy as their head coach for the next 8 years or however much longer Patrick Mahomes plays. But he's 30 years old, got really good quarterbacks who are pocket passers who preserve their bodies. And I think that you can classify as Mahomes as that. They play into their late 30s. So I think that, like, sitting here saying, like, he at least has 5 years left. And I'm going, I would probably say he has 10 years left, 8 to 10 years. So solidifying that coach that that could be there potentially for the long haul, not somebody who's going to be in and out.
Well, no, I mean, I don't think that a guy that is outside of those 3 names would be somebody that they would necessarily look to just have for the Mahomes era. I mean, obviously when you're trying to find a head coach, you want to try and find a guy that is going to be there for 20 years. It doesn't always work out that way, as we know, but I don't think the game plan would necessarily be just for the rest of Mahomes. But for this example, I get your point.
Essentially my point. Yes. My point is you have to grab one of these coaches, spend the draft capital, and not chance it by being like, oh, let's try to hire Kubiak from Seattle.
Right. Yes, true. Okay. So I'll rank these guys. I will take Shanahan first. I think that obviously if you look at just the success that he's had, it's a pretty impressive list. His issue has just been not being able to win that one last game. So I think if you combine him and Patrick Mahomes, and I think he's young enough too, where he could still end up being a head coach I think all these guys realistically are young enough where they'll be a head coach past Mahomes' career. But I think that he's the best head coach in that list. My worry goes back to what I was saying though, is just he's somebody that his offense has to be able to run the football, and with the current personnel on the Chiefs, I don't know how much you can really get out of that. But at the end of the day, if you pair Shanahan and Patrick Mahomes, it's probably going to be unstoppable if I had to guess, just because of how good of a head coach I think he is. Second,
real quick before you move on, Shanahan is also one of those coaches that, like, outside of like it's like McVay, Mahomes, Tom Brady, and like Shanahan, who like go to that have like played in the Super Bowl like in the last like 10 years. So yes, correct. He is one of those key important names like in the ethos of football. So go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that he is rightfully at number 1. I think personally, I would take Kevin O'Connell at 2. I think that he is a phenomenal offensive-minded coach, and he is a guy that I could see being there even longer than Shanahan were to be if he pleases. And I think you set yourself up pretty well for the future, for the long-term future of the Chiefs, even once Mahomes is gone. And then lastly, Harbaugh at 3. I don't think the gap between him and O'Connell is much in in this list. I think it's really a toss up because I think he's a really good head coach too. But um, I, me, and I prefer somebody that is offensive minded, and I would rather one of those two guys ahead of Harbaugh. I like Harbaugh, but I don't know. He's just like never been a guy where I'm like, yeah, I want that guy to coach my team. I think he's good, and I think he's done a good job in Baltimore. They've been one of the best teams in the NFL for how long, but I don't know. He's just never a guy that is ever like, it doesn't land for me personally. So that's why I'd have him at 3.
I get that. I do think that, like I said, he's one of the most accomplished head coaches like in the league. Like,
Yeah.
and I think that, like, I don't know. I just think that the reason why I said his name is just the Baltimore situation is something to obviously keep in mind moving forward. So, yeah, I mean, is there anything else that you would like to add? I mean, like I said, I think that the Kansas City Chiefs are just like in a very weird spot right now where they're going to have to make some hard decisions, like it's not going to be all peaches and cream for them moving forward, obviously. And now that we're finally in a position where they're not the top dog of the league, they're not winning 15 games, you have to sit here and look at them and question and just be like, what's next for them? Because they're clearly not going to be one of those teams to just like sit on their hands and not do anything.
Okay, yeah, I was asking you if there was a reason that you left Sean McVay off of this list because I feel like
I mean,
he's
why
good.
would you? I mean, the Rams have. Is there a better situation in the NFL than the Los Angeles Rams? The
Well,
GM is the most dialed guy in the entire NFL. They have hit on every single defensive pick. On the offensive side of the football, they've hit on every offensive pick. They have a franchise wide receiver that they just scooped up in the 4th round. And now you sit here in next year's draft. Stafford's playing
yeah,
at
I
an
forgot they
MVP
have
level
that pick.
still. You sit here in next year's draft and you have 2 first-round picks. It looks like the Falcons pick is going to be in the top 5. Could
Yeah,
you potentially even get, if Stafford
the
does
heir
have
to
some
the
time
throne.
left,
Yeah.
do they have an opportunity to get a quarterback in that position, or do they just take 2 more guys that have like already gone and are going to just stack this team up even more? The reason why he's also not on there is he's gotten over the hump in LA. They've won a Super Bowl. So I think that he's like firmly in LA. I don't think that there would ever be an opportunity where he would get out.
No, that's totally fine. I was just wondering what the reasoning was because obviously I think I'm sure you think the same as one of the best coaches in the NFL. So if you're the Chiefs and you're open and you're willing to pretty much move anything, um, even if they say no, I feel like it's probably still worth asking. And I would say no too if I was the Rams. Like
I
they
don't
are in
think
a
that
they're
I
in a
don't
great
think that they're
spot.
even in the market. Like I don't even think that
No,
they would even pick up the phone if they made that call.
I don't think so. I don't think they would either. I would be shocked if they did, but I just wanted to throw that name out there and see what the reasoning was for that. But I mean, other than him, other than McVay, there
My
hasn't
list is
like
completely constructed from the idea of like guys who could potentially be slightly unhappy. They're clearly not going to be able to get it done in that division. They haven't historically got it done in that division. And you look at like maybe like a LaFleur is somebody who I could have potentially put on this list
I
as
was going to
well.
ask about him too.
But out of those guys, I mean, it's a very short list of people I feel like of who could potentially be in the mix for the head coaching job.
Yeah, I think LaFleur is another one that I would certainly consider as well. Um, I think that he's a very good coach, and he could be unhappy with the way that things have panned out in Green Bay too. But other than him, like I'm just looking through the teams, and it's like I don't, I don't really think that any. I mean, there hasn't been enough from Ben Johnson to be like, yes, that's our guy. We want him for the next foreseeable future. If you're the Chiefs, outside of that, like yes, Sirianni's a good head coach, like a a good head coach for Philadelphia, but do I think that he would go and have the same success if he was in Kansas City? Absolutely not. Dan Campbell, similarly as well. Do I think that if he were to leave Detroit, he would have the same success in Kansas City? Maybe a little bit more than like Sirianni, but I
I
still
do,
don't
but
think
what
so.
in what world is like Dan Campbell going to leave Detroit? Like, you know
Correct.
what I mean?
Correct.
I'm just
Yeah, it's
thinking
like
of
a
like I'm thinking of spots of guys that could potentially be looking for a way out.
yeah,
They could be like that lit. Like, I think that list is small, where it's like a
100%.
small list of people who could potentially be looking out. I even think Shanahan might be even a little bit of a stretch. Like, but I'm thinking of guys who are like even like maybe like a Mike Tomlin, but I don't think Mike Tomlin is like that type of guy that
No.
they would want like moving forward. Maybe they do just because of like who he is, but like I was leaning more towards the side of like a potential like offensive guru more than anything else to pair alongside with Patrick Mahomes for the long haul.
Yeah, and I don't think there's many guys that exactly fit that mold that you're looking for. I think there's a lot of head coaches that are that are new or that are not like that are more so of like the CEO type. And I think that the list that you put together is more along the lines of offensive guy, but has had enough success. Or the fourth category is just haven't had enough success to be like, yeah, we want this guy as the next head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, you're not going to pluck a guy out of like uh, out of Tampa Bay. Like, it's not
Yeah,
going to
but
be
like even
Bowles.
if
Like,
you look
he's
like
been good, but it's not going to be
was
him.
like Belichick didn't have a ton of success, and the Patriots went and traded for him, and then he like completely transformed that franchise around. That's
True.
why
That's true.
I think that like I really think that I did provide multiple names, but I think the list starts with one and ends with one, and I think the only name that makes any sense in any way, shape, or form is just Shanahan. It's just like that guy has been so close so many times. He's so relevant. He's such a good coach. And I think that like if you were to just get him in a different situation with the quarterback, I think it could be the thing that takes him to the next level. Similarly, like we saw with like Andy Reid, as soon as somebody gets that quarterback, gets that guy, it can completely unlock them.
Yeah, that's been the quarterback and the injuries have been Shanahan's biggest issue, probably his entire head coaching career as the 49ers head coach.
I mean, they have been up double digits twice in the second
Yeah.
half, not to win the Super Bowl, and they have fallen short. So it's sad, but I think that that's who it is. But that's all I got for today. I've had some technical difficulties. I'll have to edit them out because my headset died. But good episode. I will be posting this, and I will talk to you soon.
I just spit it. Good girl, we're getting paper as a